Hello there, Qckslvrslash, and as promised, here's a Warships related video for the day, and today it comes to us courtesy of 1289, driving the Tier 10 Soviet cruiser, the Moskva, the tankiest, I would say, of the Tier 10 cruisers. If you get this thing in close, bow in, it can be hard to penetrate. And part of that comes down to enemy player skill, because there's definitely places you can pop shells through the front of this thing. A lot of people just don't know where to aim, wind up putting the shells straight at the bow, and they just ricochet down the side of the ship. One of the other things the Moskva is really good at is that long-range gunnery, kiting and just working people over from distance. And part of that comes down to her guns. They are the biggest of the Tier 10 cruisers. And with that, I find it has some really good shell trajectories. And, every nation has its distinguishing features. The Americans, by far, the best AA. The Japanese, great torpedoes, really flexible ships. The Germans, I would argue, are some of the best brawlers, sharing some of their armor designs with the battleships of the same navy. But the Soviets, for a long time, their distinguishing feature is kind of decent AA, some insanely destructive short-range torpedoes, good rate of fire, and, lighting lots of fires. And then all of a sudden you get to the Moskva. You lose the torpedoes, you exchange a bunch of small, fast-firing guns for these 220 millimeters, and the ship kind of changes. It becomes a lot stronger, at least close in. If you sail side on at range, you're still going to get citadeled or at close in. That's just cruiser life. But you go from what feel like some very thin ships to some very armored ones, and as you can see, some very punchy guns. These 220 millimeter guns having a maximum AP damage of 5,800 and carrying a 17% chance of fire. So you've still carried forward some of those fire starter statistics, and case in point, when I sail mine, when I'm at range, I do fire HE a lot. And I just noticed I'm on the other team. How did I not see 1289? And since he sent this in, this would have been me streaming. I didn't even notice, you sly bugger. Which means I also know how this game ends before I've even watched it. And well, needless to say, things don't go well for my team. He's taunting me. Oh, this is going to be good. You're also going to see what happens to a battleship when they make a bad decision. So having a bit of the enemy perspective on this one, I can say my team all agreed we're going AB. You can see one of our Yamatos is hung back at Charlie and is fighting a pair of New Orleans and a Montana all alone. But a lot of my team has gone into B, and, well, myself, 3 battleships, a cruiser, destroyer, they're all going to A. We've got the numbers to take on 1289's team here at A. And there he is, firing some shells at me. I did get my rudder over there, so I'm hoping I don't take too much damage, but it looks like he managed to get 10k on me. And you can see what's happening to this Iowa, and it's gonna be a bit of a story for this match. Part of what really hurts us at A is the nature we go into it. You can see 1289's team, they're all pretty much right here. They're all getting shots at us. But because of how my team distributed itself down here, as 1289 kills the first of us, we only really have shots at their Yamato and Izumo. And that's really hurting us. Then the other thing is, as our ships start to push out wide, because we don't have a lot of support down here, they're getting picked off one at a time. Now 1289 has decided to kind of cover the flank. He sees a lot of us at B, and he's going to work them over. There's enough facing south, someone's got to deal with the northeast. And he's done a great job. He's got his bow pretty much nose in, and any fire coming his way isn't going to be that effective. And you see him swapping back and forth between targets. He is picking the targets that are giving him the best broadside, because that's how you're going to maximize your damage. And in a situation like this, it's definitely something you can do. There's times to focus down a single target, and there's definitely times to pick and choose who you shoot. And as he works down this Atago, you can see I've arrived at the south of the cap. And unfortunately for me, I'm arriving right as my team has decided, well, we're not going to go A anymore, we're going to go up to Charlie. All the ships that went into B have turned north, leaving those of us who pushed down to A, as we kind of decided, and we're expecting these ships to then start looping around behind them. Well, now we're, up creek without a paddle. We've got no chance here. We're heavily outnumbered. We're not getting the flanking support we were expecting. And that cheeky bugger just told everyone to focus on me. Although, if I'm honest, once again, I'm the guy who's poking out. And my match on the enemy team pretty much ends here. I've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different ships all focusing down on me. I may be a tier 10, but they've got tier 10s, and as you can see, 1289 is more than happy to just set me on fire. And I don't have a lot to do. I've got shots at things, and I am taking them. I was primarily shooting at this Izumo for a long time because he was on the lowest health. But unfortunately, I can't angle to everything. I've got myself angled the best I can to this Izumo and Yamato, and it's leaving me broadside on to 1289, who is just working me over. He forced me to put 2 fires out. I'm going to start burning again. I'm just trying to open up my distance, and you can see my team basically left, which stinks for me. We're actually in the lead, and by we, I mean the enemy team. We've got more kills, we've got more caps, but what I think hurts, and a point to illustrate, having been on the opposite side, is when you all agree to something, make sure you have a conversation, because losing the support up at Charlie has hurt us. A huge chunk of this fleet is stuck down here. Meanwhile, it's now 3 ships trying to fight 3 ships in the north. We've got no numbers. Whereas they've got numbers in the north, they've got numbers in the south. And there I go. I die to 1289's guns. And he's already managed 85,000 damage here. Very respectable amount. That clears us out of the south. Which means now his team has completely secured a flank and is just going to turn in and one by one eat through our ships, because we are so spread out, we're useless. And you can see 1289's team is making a concerted push together. The Yamato's leading the charge, 1289's right on his stern. The Amagi's there, there's a gearing out in front screening for torps. They've all turned north. 1289 nails a couple citadels into that Atago, finishing him off finally, and just switches to the next target. And this is a massacre at this point. The Yami and Turpits, they've got no support. There's no cruisers helping them. And they've got ships both to their north and to their south. You know, they can't angle to everything, so they're just going to get ripped apart by superior numbers. And I really would say, at this point, for 1289, he just gets to farm damage and kills. There's not going to be too much difficult about this match. And he'll probably walk away with a kraken here. The Yamato's burning, and he's doing nothing but catching up. You can see he uses his radar here. I think he's hoping to catch our remaining destroyer, but I can't even remember where he was right now. But it wasn't anywhere useful. And meanwhile, up in the north, they've finished off a couple of 1289 ships, but they're still spread out. This Yami and Tirpitz are just getting worked down methodically by 1289's team, and they're just kind of pushing forward. No real concerns. Here comes the Kraken. No, maybe not. I would have expected that to be it, and no damage for that enemy. This kill is 1289's. There's the Kraken, and now they're pushing into the cap. They are behind on points, they're ahead on ships, and they're going to be ahead on caps here shortly. And the reality is, the enemy team has no one to get in behind and try to capture A. Because they've cleared out the ocean, they're now just slowly herding the entirety of the enemy team up into the northern corner. Which means they've got no way to really push hard back and retake caps. The only recourse that the remainder of this enemy team has is to try to wipe some ships out. But that's not going to happen. You know, 1289's health is a good indicator of the health of this team. They're all doing quite well. They have now got the second cap, which means they're going to run ahead on points. And they're all grouped up. I cannot express how big an advantage that is. This is just a wall of ships advancing at the enemy. And you know, even if these guys all turned around and tried to face off, there's a raw numbers game there too. They just can't overcome. And the other thing, when you look at what is left, the enemy team's got mostly cruisers. 1289's team has a ton of battleships, and battleships mean hit points. There's a point where you just can't work through that. You know, it doesn't matter how you play, you're going to run out of time. You know, even if you stand off, you take no damage and try to focus them down one at a time, you are going to run out of time. Another good hit on that Hindenburg there. 8,000 damage, no citadels, but then again, the Hindi can be a little trolly with its armor. But just because you're not getting into the citadel doesn't mean you're not doing damage. A couple more volleys like that, he's going to be at the bottom of the ocean like much of his team. And 1289's leading the charge. He is fearless here, and it might bite him a bit, taking some pretty heavy hits because the enemies are able to focus him down. But one more volley, this Hindi should be dead, and that is really the biggest threat. He's the one who's directly on the side. Now the things shooting at him are pretty much bow on, and that doesn't prove nearly as big an issue for the Moskva. He decides he's gonna work the Baltimore over. And I'm not entirely sure why, though. He's just swapped over, and despite having guns loaded, swapped to HE. I would have fired and then swapped, and maybe that was just a fat finger mistake, but his secondaries finish off that Des Moines for him. Unfortunately, he is gonna be a goner here. He is going to the bottom of the ocean, and it's his team left to finish off a couple more ships. And it's safe to say they're going to here. Look at that just wall of battleships. With the Zhao out in front, they're in a good position. And yeah, they may have a Shimikaze, but no torp wall is stopping this kind of push. And it's actually been a lot of fun to kind of watch a game I was in from the other side. You know, when I died, I'm like, I was stupid. I should have, the second I saw my team abandoning Alpha, I should have turned north, protected myself, because I probably could have made a difference. Instead, I sank all alone the south of the map, having had a pretty crappy game. That was just bad decisions on my part, and everyone in stream saw it happen. And, well, no matter what happens here, you know, 1289's team is winning. The Zhao sacrificed himself, driving broadside onto a Tirpitz around a corner. I don't know why you would do that. You know the Tirpitz is there. He's either going to get you with a broadside or with torpedoes. And I'm guessing that's what the Tirpitz is probably setting up to do now. He's picking his target, waiting patiently. Waiting to get those torps off at close range at an enemy ship, and it's probably going to be the Izumo. Although, he is looking back right now, so perhaps it's the Amaki who is going to have an unfortunate fate here. Any second I would expect them to launch. They may already be in the water. After all, enemy team can't see them. But he does get finished off there. So the question is, did the Tirpitz get torpedoes into the water? My guess is yes, but we're never going to find out. And it was definitely a well-played game by 1289. He capitalized on a mistake I made on the enemy team, working me down as well as many of my teammates. Overall, walked away with almost 500,000 credits, got that close quarters expert and a kraken, 158,000 damage, 7 kills, a couple fires, number of citadels, and I would say led his team. He really charged at us after they cleared us out of the south. So well played, 1289, and you should have said something that, hey, I know you, in game. Perhaps I would have tried to focus you down a little too. Anyways, thank you for the replay. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun watching it because I knew my team just disintegrated. Anyways, if you did enjoy it, please consider giving it a thumbs up or subscribing to the channel. Both help me out. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash, and I'll have another one for you guys later.